Since 2003, anti-war Pennsylvania Congressman John Murtha has repeatedly claimed that our troops in Iraq don't have the equipment they need. But listen to what he said in an interview yesterday with the far-left website, movecongress.org, when he was asked what effect his desired congressional limits would have on the troop surge.
They won't be able to continue. They won't be able to do the deployment. They won't have the equipment. They don't have the training, and they won't be able to do the work.
They won't have the deployment. They won't have the equipment. They won't be able to continue. Mr. Speaker, look, here's where we are. This stealth plan to defund the troops and guaranteed defeat. We hear where they're coming from. This is only a first step, this non-binding resolution. The question is here, they say they support the troops. They say it. They lecture us about how much they support the troops. But let's be blunt and let's be honest here. This non-binding resolution and the plan, you know, a death by 1,000 cuts that John Murtha is proposing here, this will undermine our troops. This will guarantee defeat. We can't win this way. And this will embolden our enemies, and it'll make America and the world less safe. This, I think, is one of the saddest weeks we've had in American history. You're the historian, Mr. Speaker. Can you name a time this has ever happened while we're at war? To have
Sure. Look. The Democrats in Congress in 1975 cut off all funding to South Vietnam and guaranteed the defeat of South Vietnam by Communist North Vietnam. The Democrats in 1975 promised there would be no terrible consequences if we were defeated. 2 million Cambodians were killed by Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge after the defeat in Vietnam.
Although the Americans had left Vietnam and a peace treaty had been signed, few Vietnamese believed that the war was over for them. The agreement had left 200,000 northern troops occupying strong positions inside the South. At the last minute, the Americans had given South Vietnam vast quantities of new weapons and was still giving large amounts of financial aid. In the wake of the peace agreement, South Vietnam's President Thieu had been given clear assurances by Nixon. If the North broke the treaty, the United States would retaliate with force. But by the summer of 1973, in the wake of the revelations about the secret bombing of Cambodia and other political considerations, Nixon no longer had the power to fulfill his promise. The U.S. Senate passed a bill banning combat operations over Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia. By the start of 1974, the North Vietnamese had rebuilt their divisions in the South. As yet, they were too weak to launch a full-scale offensive, but they had won some territory in key areas. On the South Vietnamese side, government forces seemed to be holding up well, but in the country, a crisis was looming. The withdrawal of American troops had already caused severe economic problems in South Vietnam. The economy had relied on U.S. aid, but had been inflated out of all proportion by the American presence. Millions were unemployed. Then came a world oil crisis that quadrupled the price of fuel. The cost of living soared, and political unrest shook southern cities. At the same time, corruption in the government and the army reached new heights as Thieu cut the defense budget drastically. The effect on the armed forces was disastrous. Soldiers could no longer support their families as prices rose, and corrupt officers embezzled funds. Fuel shortages cut helicopter operations by 70%. A shortage of spare parts immobilized aircraft and vehicles. Ammunition was rationed. Steady cuts in American financial aid would add to the overriding sense of decay. The American tap was being slowly turned off.